but still happy to see everyone and want to get us going right on time. So I believe we are now streaming live. Yes, we are now not only streaming live on YouTube, but we have our Zoom meeting up and running. So hello and welcome to the June 20th, 2023 meeting of the McMinnville Water and Light Commission. I would like to start by, of course, calling the meeting to order and asking our clerk, Trina McManus, to do a roll call.
Yes, Mayor Dropkin.
Here.
Commissioner Tankersley.
Here.
Commissioner Gormley.
Here.
Commissioner Christensen.
Here.
Commissioner Tate.
Here. Thank you very much. First, we'll go to our consent agenda. Does any commissioner wish to have anything called off of the consent agenda? No.
Move for adoption of the agenda.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gormley and I have a second.
Second.
A second from Chair Tankersley. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Has everyone had an opportunity to review accounts payable and purchasing? And are there questions?
No question.
No questions? Questions. All right. Thank you. We would now like to welcome up Nathaniel Butefeld. Is that a correct pronunciation?
Yes, that is correct.
Wonderful. Will you introduce yourself to the commission and we'll introduce ourselves to you in turn?
All right, I'm Nathaniel Butefeld. I grew up in Yamhill and Carlton, so I'm from around here. Yamhill County's always been home. I'm the geospatial or GIS programmer and analyst here. I believe it was the end of April when I was brought on, and I'm really excited to be here. I got my start in GIS in the Army, spent 6 years doing it for them as a geospatial engineer, and I'm really excited that I get to continue my career in GIS in a way that serves my community again. That's always been something that's very important to me, and when I'm not serving my community, I feel like it's really lacking. The opportunities I've got here to apply my experience and my skill, as well as advance my ability in GIS are just, it's indescribably great, and I'm very grateful to be here.
Well, wonderful. Welcome. Thank you. And thank you for your service. I would like to give the commission an opportunity to introduce themselves, starting with Chair Tankersley.
I am Tom Tankersley, Commission Chair. I've been doing this for a long time. And I'm really excited to hear what you said. And I think you're going to fit in quite well, because one of my experiences has been that the staff really does feel dedication. And I'm excited that you understand already that you got a chance to learn more. So thank you very much. We're happy to have you.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Ed Gormley. My family has a plumbing and heating company here in McMinnville. Thank you for your service. And just curious, did you stay in the reserves or the?
No, I spent 6 years active duty. When I got out for being a single father. And
Okay.
So the way that I got out didn't require any reserve or National Guard time on top of that.
Well, look forward to working with you in the future on different plotting and things we do. So.
Mhm.
Hi, I'm Kathy Tate. I've been on the commission since the beginning of 2021, retired business runner or owner, manager, whatever, for the last year. And yeah, it's really great to have you join Water and Light and continue on your career path, which sounds like you already got a really great start. So thank you for your service for that.
I'm Jody Christensen. I have been on the commission in my first term, and I am a special project manager for the city of McMinnville. Welcome to the team.
And I'm Remy Drapkin. I'm the mayor of the city of McMinnville. Been in public service with the city for over a dozen years now. And in my day job, I'm a winemaker.
So John, I think it's fitting you let him go home for the day, right?
Oh, wait a minute.
No, that's micromanaging. Sorry. Anyway, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are now ready for our forestry report. And so I would welcome Brent Keller, our forester, who I believe is on Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we're in full swing with our forestry program currently. The 303 road sale is about 2/3 complete. A1 logging, cutting, logging, and
Excuse me,
shipping
I'm sorry to
logs.
interrupt you. Can we turn the volume up in the commission room a little bit? My apologies for the interruption.
Sam, that's you on your keyboard if you want to turn that up.
All right. Okay, try again, Brent.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, wonderful. Thank you.
Well, we're in full swing with our timber program currently. The 303 road sale is about 2/3 complete. A1 logging is shipping logs off of that sale mostly to Herbert. Once that sale's done, A1's also the logger for the 187 road sale that was purchased by Boise Cascade, and they'll move on up the hill to that sale once the 303 road's complete. We're still looking at road maintenance, silviculture projects. I'm hoping that the rock crushing project at the watershed is complete before the end of the season, because we've got a fair amount of road maintenance to do that we could use that newly crushed rock on. What didn't make the letter here is that fire season has started in the Northwest 3 district, started the 14th, right around the time of this letter here to John last week. So the logger has their fire equipment, and of course Water and Light's fire truck is at the treatment plant, so we're all squared away, and hopefully the mild weather continues. Fire season started early because we'd had 3-4 weeks without much moisture. It has started around 4th of July for the last few years, but now it's cooled down and is a little bit wet again, so that's good. And we'll hope for a uneventful fire season this year.
Thank you so much. Do any commissioners, were you complete? I'm sorry. Or were you?
Any questions?
Yeah. Any questions?
None here.
No. All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to say that this might arguably be one of the most exciting parts of the agenda today. We're going to welcome up James Burke and Ryan Sticka to talk about the internship program with McMinnville High School, as well as the students who have participated on this collaboration, and we're very excited. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being.
We have limited stuff to say, so I'll bring the interns on up, so. I'll explain. All right, so we started an internship. It was about a 4-month internship. We had partnered with McMinnville High School. There you go. Partnered with McMinnville High School. They gave us a great group of students to pull from. So we selected 5 interns from the ESA program and 2 from the fabrication program. So here now we have 4 of those students. As you came in, you saw the trailer out front here. Before that, we just was a normal trailer. Didn't have much to it, but these guys did a lot of work to get it set up. So we have a video. We're gonna have a little chat with these guys in a little bit here. So each one of them will get kind of say what they learned afterward. We want to also take you outside and show you what's out in the trailer there and kind of how the purification system works. So Trina, do you have the video you can start out?
My name is Nathaniel Porter,
Logan Heisch.
August Wagner, Caden Huber, Wyatt Kuchta.
My name is Jacob Andrew Levenger. I was the project coordinator, which means I would coordinate communications between the different interns and staff for the project.
So will you be attending the next tour?
Communication was key for this project. We had to focus on that a lot. Instead of just being able to talk in classes, we had to text and email often.
My contribution to this project was design work, primarily on the 3D model of the trailer.
I was a designer for this project. I primarily worked on the blueprint, basically just where everything was going in the trailer, so that then anyone who unpacks it will know exactly where everything goes.
The portable water purification system provides potable drinking water to the community in case the water system ever becomes compromised. So this will allow us to take from almost any water source and purify it to get drinking water out to people.
We can distribute it to water filling stations and having people nearby come get water.
This goes vertical, flip it, and then swap.
The trailer wrap design, that was definitely something new that I haven't done before, but now that I've done it, I can definitely take that experience to other places.
Okay, so what we're doing, you see this.
My internship with McMinnville Water and Light has really improved my communication skills. I believe that it's helped me further my professional career and it's given me experience that I couldn't get in a classroom.
This project is very hands-on compared to projects at the school. My fabrication class helped me to be able to measure everything, use all the tools.
This project has helped me work with a team and just get that deadline down.
The goal was to get younger students interested in utility work and to get them an opportunity to look at us as a future career and also for us to get a chance to look at them as potential future employees.
Instead of working in a classroom with 30 people, we were in a small break room usually with 4 people and staff coming in and out. So it was a lot more serious.
So this project is essentially the same as any of our capital improvement projects. We'll start with the design process and then we'll do parts procurement and then we'll also do the construction, which is very similar to what the students did here with the purification trailers.
Be prepared to be pushed out of your comfort zone. It is definitely intimidating, but everyone's supportive. They want to help you succeed.
Look for a good internship like this one that will teach you professionalism and communication.
I hate to say I hope we get to see it in use because that implies something bad has happened.
I think the kids enjoyed it. Gives them a little sense of what it's like to be in the work field.
I would say that for anyone else interested in going into utility work, enjoy it. You know, if you think it's right for you, really just go into it. I can almost guarantee that it's going to be fun and that you're going to meet new people and that you're probably going to make some friends along the way.
This is, I think, something that will continue into the future because it does give people an opportunity to look at us as a career path. If students in the local area are interested, keep looking because we do put those positions out there for them.
I'm disappointed. No ditches, no rain. You guys haven't lived till you put rain gear on. We're gonna muddy ditch. Put the utilities in.
So over that 4-month period, these interns, they came in, they held weekly meetings, they did a schedule, they did the operations manual for it, and then they did the fabrication for it as well. The design you see out there was done by the students. They did a great job. So yeah, the programs at the high school teaching these guys very, very good work. The pool of applicants we had, good pool of applicants as well. So we have Wyatt, August, Aiden, and Logan. You guys want to say a few things to the commission? You guys ask some questions. We also want to go outside and show you the trailer.
So do any of you have family members that might be in utility work?
My dad works here.
I wondered that. I have no idea who your dad is, or your mother.
You want to add any, Wyatt? You held all the meetings and everything. You did a good job.
So I'm Wyatt Kusha. I was a project manager for the team. I was in charge of giving weekly meetings, keeping up with all the work, and just making sure everything went smoothly together. Overall, I think it was a great time. I really enjoyed it, and I got a lot of experience. Utility work was something I never thought I'd ever venture in, but having this internship really made me realize the work that goes into making sure we have electricity, water, and it just gets me excited about becoming an adult and getting a job. And
Wow, that's fantastic. So you're a sophomore?
I'm a sophomore.
Going to be a sophomore or going to be a junior?
I will be a junior next week.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And so we have Aiden, you graduated.
Yes.
And then the rest of you will be juniors next year.
August, was your sister Grace, did she just win the Emerging Youth Leader Award for
Yes.
her 400 hours of volunteerism? Yeah, it's wonderful. You have a lot of leadership in your family.
Must be something in the water.
So
So I think what's interesting about this project is it's project-based learning. Is this the first time you've done something like this with the skills you've learned in ESA?
I think something on this scale and with this much all around application, plus having to learn a couple of new skills. It's definitely unlike anything that I've personally ever done before.
Do you realize how proud you guys are gonna be? And that drives down the road. This is one of the neat things about construction. You've had your hands involved in putting things together. You can look back and say, I did that, I accomplished that. I noticed there's a bunch of piping work in there and stuff. It's the end of the day, you can say, what'd you get done? Well, I got all that done. For those of us are managers, our piles of paper just get deeper and deeper at the end of the day. But the fun side of the business is where you guys are at. So, great job, guys.
How many hours do you think went into the project in total? Did you keep track?
So we did keep track, but we started in February and on average would put in about 4 hours a week, 4 to 6 hours. And that ended this month in June. So I think overall we put in a lot of hours. I think it was around 50 a person, and we spent a lot of time doing it. We had an open period in school where we'd come into work and work on the trailer.
Great, great. Well, it shows that a lot of time went into it. It's really excellent, so.
Well, I want to compliment our staff on that. Great job, guys, really.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What a good team,
We
our
take it
staff and these outstanding students out there.
Yeah.
All right, let's go do it.
We just leave everything in.
I don't think anybody's, I think it's.
Wow.
I think it's the same. This would be a trigger approach. That's right.
Yes, we need to. Well, one's working our fast line, they think it's still out.
Yeah. So I do. Forgot to mention that the commissioner must have roll up orders.
Yeah.
Manuals and stuff you're working on will be different than what you did in the service.
It's quite a bit different, but it's not just like completely disparate from it. I did work a moderate amount with utility oriented stuff, but usually it was more just the lines of communication and like determining what is critical and stuff like that. Nothing on the sort of a smaller scale. This is gotcha. It was all just broad overview stuff.
Cool. Yeah, surprise, strange. Not sure what that's gonna be. It is really good work. Yeah, I'm sure it's all the place, all the destruction done. Hopefully we won't send it. We just, I could see one of our neighbors.
Yeah, yeah, well, community.
Yeah. Might be falling.
Nice job. Excellent, really awesome.
We have 2 more trailers to do, and I've got a couple other ideas for other projects.
That's great.
But I
Very
did something
cool.
like this in high school when I was in high school.
And look at you. Look
Yeah,
at you.
That's right. You just never know. It doesn't work out, right?
Well,
Yes, they're in the little. When you were in high school. Well, it was a horse that went around the circle like this.
I've heard about that. Well, coming back into our meeting here, thank you for your patience while we left the room, but we went out inside and saw one of these really amazing water purification emergency trailers that were created in this partnership with McMinnville Water and Light and ESA, and they were fantastic. So I don't even know who all to tell how fantastic they were, but it's really a wonderful, they're really wonderful. Okay, so moving on, we are going to welcome Chad Hudson, our purchasing manager, to talk about our ongoing supply chain issues.
I don't know if you're gonna welcome me after what you guys just witnessed. This isn't nearly as fun to talk about as the project that we just saw. But I just kind of want to keep the commission, the mayor informed of kind of what we're seeing at the staff level. Day to day for procurement of the goods that our crews use. It's not getting better. Lead times continue to be an issue. And it's a little bit more sporadic. Sometimes, items that you buy on a regular basis will be in stock, and the next time you go out and get a quote, and it'll be, 20 weeks. It's just kind of all over the board. So I kind of want to just recap. Last year we had the transformer allotment program that the commission approved through General Pacific, who's a distributor. It's actually ERMCO's manufacturer, which has actually worked really great for the utility. That's enabled us to ensure continuity of supply through 2023 the transformers. So basically what ERMCO or General Pacific has done is they've given us 90 production slots on the production floor throughout the calendar year 2023. Anybody that did not opt into that program, they don't have slots. They may get, if people cancel, they may be able to get a slot, but there's no guarantee. anything outside of that, other manufacturers, there are other manufacturers out there that aren't doing such a program. You're ranging anywhere from 50 to about 160 to about 150 weeks for a transformer and lead time. If you even get a price, there's a lot of manufacturers right now not even offering pricing because of the backlogs they have. So even if you attempted to get a quote, you may not be able to get one. Which in turn has created kind of a shift. There's been a lot of people sending in their existing transformers, which we do and have always done, in for repair, into repair shops. We've done that forever. We've actually kind of increased. We used to kind of get rid of things, every 30 years was kind of the magic number. We would recycle it and retire it. We are taking that more as a case by case basis now, just because the supply is harder to get. So we've been sending transformers in as well as a lot of utilities, which has increased their workload. And so they are backlogged as well. So it really depends on how long it takes to get that, but so we do have that. Do you have a question, sorry?
I do. Well, I'm just wondering if you'll educate me a little
Yeah.
more on that, the transformer repair. So what kind of specialty skills, for instance, or that I guess my question is kind of wanting to understand to what degree we can repair those types of materials that are in shortage in-house, and kind of where the line falls, where it needs to be sent out. And then what is that skill set that is differentiated to do those repairs?
Right. Currently, right now, we don't have the equipment to do they'll go there, they'll strip it down, and then they'll do voltage testing, potential testing and stuff like that on the transformer.
There's a lot of testing that goes in to make sure that before you even repair it, because it may be a bad transformer and may not be worth repairing. We don't have any of that equipment to do that kind of work. Plus, then you have to have a specialty kind of facility, because you have untake it, take it out in oil, paper. There's no kind of it's kind of a unique business, but it's also not super skilled, which is kind of interesting. Only really the skilled part is the testing piece. The part to untake it and do those, it's kind of like regular mechanical type skills. So it's the diagnostic that's the more of the skill, and there's special test equipment that does that with high voltage. So you have to have safety. There's a utility I worked for previously had their own test set to do that kind of work. We just don't have the volume of transformers to do that work here. So we don't do that.
Thank you.
Chad, would it be possible for like public power to get together and do a co-op that repairs transformers? So you wouldn't have the price gouging just because the demand was higher, and you get the economies of scale where we couldn't afford to do it, but other people would.
Yeah.
So the repair part is not the really expensive part. It's the transformers.
Right.
And ERMCO is a co-op.
Oh, it is?
Yes, ERMCO already is a co-op.
Okay.
And ERMCO is a co-op. General Pacific's also a co-op.
Okay.
They're owned by the co-ops, and I think there's a couple others. NIT is a co-op.
And do we get the same price from them as the co-ops get? And the co-ops just get what do they call it? It's a part of it.
Credit
back.
On the profit.
Capital credit.
Yeah.
There, so yeah, as far as the dynamic of actually repairing them, there hasn't been like a co-op, like a cooperative group getting together. There has been a lot of talk of like actual procurement side of buying materials. The problem in the utility industry a lot is standards. Like every utility is different, and we have this, and the other utility has this. So trying to come together and standardize the standard so everybody has the same item, so we can get together as a group. And that's been really the push lately, is to kind of get that.
You'd be amazed. I can't remember the number, but it was thousands of standards just for transformers. Yeah. Everybody has just a little bit different the way their systems work.
John, can't think of the name of the oil. It's a B.
Yeah, it's What's that?
No, this is the old transformer.
Oh, you're thinking PCBs,
PCBs.
polychlorinated
So-
phenols.
Do you remember what happened to us with those?
Oh, yeah.
So we hired a long-established company that was servicing all of the utilities, dispose of,
Creek.
and they were basically dumping the stuff in the backyard of the farm. And went on for years and years, and then we end up with a cleanup action. And we
Super
get,
fun site. It was actually
and
Coal
we
Creek.
got, we ended up having to pay for it.
As we wanted.
So- But so the disposing of the product and stuff has risk to it, I would think. And
So that disposal, most of that goes down to Salem to transformer.
Transformer Technologies, yeah. And we have very few PCV transformers anymore that we send in. There's very, very few.
But I mean, they did our work and they were always low, and
Yep.
we find out they're dumping it in the back forty.
I know exactly where that site is.
Yeah.
In Washington, yeah.
Yeah.
Coal Creek, I know exactly where it is. It was in the service territory where it used to work.
Well, thank you, Chairman.
Any additional questions?
Yeah, no, I think we're gonna be coming forward to the commission here in a meeting or two. Asking once again for a 2024 special procurement for transformer allocation through ERMCO. It's been a fantastic program, and I don't think we want to get out of that program. Because we won't be, this year's allocation is based on last year.
Mm.
And if we get out of it, we might be out of that program for 2025. So we'll be bringing that forward. And then also I highlighted some of the pricing of the everyday materials that we buy. And you could just kind of give a snapshot of what the pricing's done. So,
More than doubled off.
yeah.
So you might also mention the issue with trucks.
Yeah, trucks, especially utility specific, electric specific trucks. Continue to be a real issue. They're out 4 to 5 years right now, currently, for if we want to get a digger derrick or a bucket truck. We'll be bringing some forward later on tonight. In regards to that, but they're having troubles with the chassis, getting the chassis itself. And then they're also having problems sourcing the components for the booms. And supposedly the vendors are telling them that it's a raw material shortage, but the cylinders and the valves and stuff like that are to put together the booms. They're having a real difficult time right now sourcing that. So landscape is a little bit ugly in that regards. They can't give you a firm price because they don't even have a truck, that they give you a price now. It could be a 2028 chassis that you're receiving. They can't give you a firm price. They try to estimate it out to the best of their ability, but
We just had a fire truck go up not once, but twice, even though we were theoretically at a final price. So we did an adjustment, and then that chassis that was reserved for us got sold. And so then we ended up with another like a $15,000 adjustment up for the chassis. So I mean, it's highly competitive.
Yeah, I think they were talking 5% a year.
5% a year. Generally, it's in normal conditions is about 3% per year adjustment is what they think. It's been 5%. And so
remember 2 years ago, talking about orders for Ford Transit vans, expected in October, and all of a sudden Sprint issues a PO around the country and there are no vans to be had, period. Same thing happened in Canada. From things like Suburbans and just in lightweight trucks. Sprint Canada came in and
we had an issue
with all the dealers.
What was the issue with the box for the water truck?
Just the lead time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
supposed to be here now.
It's supposed to be here now. Yeah.
Just a standard utility box.
Been on order since February, and they're saying hopefully by December.
Sounds like an intern project.
Yeah.
The welding project.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of the daily grind of it. We'll get lead times that are really long. You can never trust them because if they're really long, generally what ends up happening is you're calling at, 15, 20 weeks, quoted lead time. They're like, it's been pushed out, and you continue to do that. So we're spending a lot of staff time chasing down orders, and you're hearing the same thing. We can't give you an answer right now. It's been pushed out. And so it's an interesting time. We're navigating. We're really fortunate right now. We have increased stock levels through this whole process. Planning is really important. We're ordering, material for winter season. well in advance for a storm season, way earlier than we used to, so. I think we're on top of it, but it's a little uneasy feeling, you know, as it continues to compound on itself and we go through this, but.
Polls have become a pretty big issue now.
Polls is a really big issue. Mergers and acquisitions have kind of peeled it down to basically 2 pole manufacturers in the region. And one of those is not giving any pricing. These are so backlogged. There is a shift in treatment, which is the chemical to treat the poles, which is contributing to that. But it's really difficult to get a pole right now, a wood pole in Oregon. It's a little odd. Right. So,
Can I just clarify, all of these items that are on the price list here, these are all like capital expenditures, right? They would all go into the,
Capital plus maintenance. Maintenance too.
so capital plus maintenance.
Yeah, so I mean, normally, you know, it would be, most of it's capital, but if we have
So if you're doing some
Some,
repairs
you
or
pipe
replacements.
breaks or something.
The majority is probably
Right.
capital expenditures that are on the budget for future purchasing, right?
Yeah, did you have the power go out in your house a few weeks ago?
Our neighbors.
Okay, so that turned out to be wire,
Bring something.
and this is wire that we got to purchase.
So if you were looking at that, that was on, yeah, 1-aught underground. 2020 price was $2.11. Today it's $5.54 per foot.
Yeah.
and that's our bread and butter backbone for underground.
We use that
a
for
lot.
everything.
Yeah.
And so, so what's happening is prices are going up. You know, remember, I know Ed and Tom probably remember, we used to have kind of this, we never really quite spent our capital budget.
Right.
We're spending our capital budget. And what's happening is now we're spending it, plus we're doing less because the price of materials is so high.
Thank
It's
you.
not sustainable.
Yes, it's not sustainable, right?
Lots
Thanks
of
for
good
making all
news.
those phone calls.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, we're in contact with our vendors all the time. I mean, you have to be, keep pull something, but
Yeah, okay.
Thanks.
thank you.
Do you want to stay here
Think
with
so.
us as we move into our facility space needs study?
Yeah. Yes, I'd like to introduce the commission. This is Soderstrom Architects. We have Dan Van Kelkar and Erica Jankowski. We've been working with them for the last, since what, November? 7 months. 7 months.
Kind of kick things off in full in January.
Yeah. So I'll just kind of highlight a little bit. We've kind of gone through a process which she'll discuss here. I don't want to give too much of the presentation away, but as I was sitting here trying to watch a presentation on the board about a trailer, I couldn't see the screen because the room wasn't big enough. People were in my way. So parlay that into the now. But anyhow, I'll let them take over. They're going to go through kind of our presentation and the process that we've gone through, and have any questions? You're here.
So real quick, as Chad mentioned, I'm Dan Van Kelkar. This is Erica Jankowski with Soderstrom Architects, and we've been working with McMinnville Water and Light since actually November, but really in earnest since January, identifying what your current needs are and future needs are for space and functionality of your facility. And we then moved that into a programming space planning phase, and then took a look at a site master plan of how all the parts and pieces can fit together with your current property.
All right, so Trina, if you want to go to the next slide. Sam, can you make the
Small.
this
No, it's on the other, go down. It's not there. No, it's on the black. Go to the black, top of the black. There's, no, right there, go to your little.
the little
Box.
There you go. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, so kind of the first thing I want to do is just briefly walk you through the process we went through to get to the drawings that you're going to see. So the goal was to figure out to the best of our abilities what your needs were going to be for the next 20 years from a building and facility standpoint, and how can we set you up to achieve those
those goals with your facility the most efficient way and the best way possible. So to do that, we reviewed existing drawings of the facility. We interviewed key staff members from each department to talk with them about how their departments function, what was working for them, what wasn't working for them. Using that information, we kind of came up with a list of spaces that we thought were necessary in the new building and some ideas about how big those were going to be. We took those and did some kind of hypothetical room layouts. Okay, what is the perfect size for an office? What is the perfect size for a commission room if it was just in a vacuum by itself? And then we started to take those and lay them out into buildings. And doing that, we looked at both complete new builds as well as remodeling the existing buildings. And we worked with our budget as well as what it looked like for the site and keeping you guys up and operational in deciding how much of it was going to be remodel versus new construction. Because one of the things as a public utility, you guys are an essential service. So in the event of a natural disaster, whether that's a storm or an earthquake, you have to be up and running immediately. And seismic codes have changed a lot since your buildings were built in the 1980s. And so there's a certain cost associated just with seismically upgrading the existing buildings. And so that was one of the factors we weighed when we were talking about the remodel versus expansion. So after going through several iterations over the last 6 months or so, we've
Quite a few, yes.
and we've come up with a plan for the project that divides the work into 4 phases so that you don't have to spend it all up front. And it can be kind of reevaluated as you hit each next stage. Each piece of this can kind of be done independently. So those are an expansion to the admin building and a remodel of the admin building, constructing a new fleet maintenance building, and then doing a remodel of the warehouse and crew spaces along with an expansion. So Trina, if you want to go to the next one there. So this is the phasing plan for the project. So what you see in blue is phase 1. And we'll go into detail on these in a little bit, but this kind of gives you a sense of what we're talking about. So in phase 1, we're talking about doing expansions to the admin building to gain all staff conference space. See Chad's comment about the conference room not being big enough. And that expansion to the admin space is kind of going to trigger some of these parking lot upgrades because we're proposing to take over your existing parking lot with that work. And obviously, once we take over that parking lot, that parking has to go somewhere else. So that's why the parking is lumped in with phase 1. We're also proposing taking over where you're currently storing the transformers and the wire reels and some of those things. So as part of that work, we're building new storage pads for those that are more up to code, a little bit more accessible, a little bit more modern as part of that work. And then phase 2 would be construction of a new fleet maintenance building. The current maintenance shop is not sized to pull the modern vehicles into. They just physically will not fit. Because it's a pre-engineered metal building, it's very difficult to make it taller or wider to accommodate those vehicles. So in this case, it did not make sense to remodel that building. Instead, we're proposing a new facility that will accommodate the newer, modern, larger vehicles, as well as moving some of the facilities maintenance functions and other tool type functions into that building, give them a little more elbow room to do that work and store those items. Then in phase 3, we're talking about doing seismic upgrades to the warehouse along with an expansion of that. That one would want to be brought up to essential facility standards because that's where all your tools and vehicles and electrical and water crews are based out of. So that is, if nothing else, that is the piece of this that has to be functional after a disaster, right? Whether or not you can hold a commission meeting. Like you could do that in the parking lot if you had to, but if the crews are functional, that's the really important part. So that's happening in phase 3. And then in phase 4, would be looking at some more of the yard type items, whether or not that pole barn gets replaced or just kind of refurbished, potentially paving some of those back areas that are currently gravel. So that's kind of the down the road, when you get to it, low priority type of items, but we've gotten costs to do that as part of this work, just so everybody has an idea of what we're talking about. All right, let's head on to the next one. So in the crew areas, what we're talking about, at least initially, is doing a fairly low-key remodel in there. We're doing pretty limited work. We're moving the facilities shop out of the crew area, which frees up space that was previously used as the facility shop and now can be used more for electrical, crew gear, and things of that nature, which then we're also taking the meter shop out of that, which lets them kind of expand their crew rooms so it can actually accommodate all the staff they currently have. We discovered that the drying room and locker room in the warehouse crew areas were actually doing double duty, that people were really only using the drying room as a locker room, and the locker room itself was not being used. So we've kind of reclaimed that space, which allows us to put a little bit larger of a women's restroom into the crew area, as well as free up space for more water crew space. So this is, I would say this is kind of the quick, easy crew remodel. This is the low cost approach to it. And it's also something that if your needs change 15, 20 years down the road, you haven't dumped loads of money into this to the point where you feel bad doing something else. It's a responsible use of funds to make life better for them right now without wasting money should needs change in the future, I guess is the way to think about this one. All right, let's head on to the next one. Oh yeah.
In the ADA shower, is that a wall on the right-hand side?
Yes, that's an existing wall. It's kind of, it's gray, so it's fading out a little bit. Yeah.
Thank you.
So then in the office building, for the most part, we're keeping, I guess, the core elements of the admin building in place, right? We're keeping the hallways where they are, we're keeping the restrooms where they are, but we're rebuilding offices in sizes that are more appropriate for their uses and more soundproof, so you can't hear those private HR conversations from one office to the next. We're adding an engineering expansion off the back of the building so that all the engineering staff are sitting together rather than scattered in 5 or 6 rooms throughout the building, which again kind of frees up some space for other uses like a quiet/nursing room, like moving the training room out of the water crew room, since it's a training room for all staff, getting it into this building instead, getting some more IT room. The current break room, I think, is what, about 10 by 10?
Probably.
So, because it's been chopped down over the years as more and more offices are needed. So we're making a more right-sized break room that can double as a kitchen when you have those weather events. I know currently the crew room is doing some of that, but this one would also be big enough to do that as well. And just kind of the thing that came up again and again and again in our interviews with everybody was just there was not enough space. There was not enough storage space. There was not enough space for people. was just not enough space. So we're trying to find some more space.
So are you expanding the footprint of the building?
Yes.
Where?
So off the back side of the building for engineering, we're doing,
Point where it is.
yeah, it's the green, and I just can't read that dimension from here. I'm sorry. I want to say it's about a 30 to 40
35
foot,
by
yeah,
72.
a 30-foot expansion
And then this is the footprint
of the existing building.
of the existing building.
In this building and in the warehouse, you'll be doing the seismic upgrades, right?
In this building, so the expansions to the admin building will need to be built to the essential facility requirements. This building, I would say you guys have a choice as to whether you just bring it up to life safety, which is people who are in this building will safely be able to exit during an earthquake, or whether you bring it up to it's fully operational. Because we can make sure, the way we have it laid out right now, none of the functions that are in this existing footprint would be necessary in the event of a seismic event. All of those are going to be located in other structures. So you could save some money and only do the, let's get people out of this building safely, but it doesn't have to stay operational.
And how much money are you talking about saving by doing that?
We didn't have the cost estimator break out the difference between those two. On a wood building, it's probably less than on a pre-engineered metal building.
I think we'd like to know what's.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see what we can.
As we go through the phasing, I think that'll be, that piece will be in phase 2.
Yeah. And to a certain extent, that's something that we're going to have to bring a structural engineer on board to help us work through exactly what that looks like. Right now, we've looked at it at a very high level, architectural, and working with our cost estimator who does a lot of these and has some general numbers in their back pocket. But without us telling them exactly what is happening, they can't dive into specifics from a structural
The biggest
standpoint.
issue of this building, if I remember right from the report we did back in 2018, was the lights were tied to the false ceiling and not to the trusses up above.
It seems like it's lacking shear capabilities. So yeah, they would have to be pulling finishes off either the exterior or the interior of the building, putting a lot more nails in. Same thing on the roof. Yeah. Potentially building some new solid walls on the inside of the building to take up some of that load.
You part of it when you. put the
Yes.
greenery up.
Right.
Yeah.
So the additional space, how many bodies are we reflecting at peak?
So we talked through everybody with their staffing needs, and in general, people were only adding 1, maybe 2 staff members per department from what they've currently got. So we really weren't looking at a dramatically larger staff head count. We do have a couple of unassigned offices that don't have specific people now. Those could be used as conference rooms or training facilities, or as needs change, they could get assigned. I would have to pull up the staff surveys to get an actual head count, but I think we're probably talking about 80-ish
I think we
people.
looked at around 10%, 10
Yeah.
15%.
And this is a.
So is
20-year
this-
horizon?
Yeah, this is 20 years out.
Okay.
Is this room considered an assembly room?
Yes.
So it looks like the bathrooms are the existing bathrooms. Nothing's
Yes.
being done.
So we've got let's go ahead and have Trina go to the next one, because that's got the.
Say the head count. might be-
Yes, so that is.
Oh, okay. gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where we've got our new commission room and larger conference room, with the idea being there'd be a more modern version of this partition wall between them, along with associated restrooms with that. A nearby conference room so that when you all go into confidential sessions, you don't have to clear people out of this room. You can go to the conference room to have those deliberations, but it can double as a conference room for staff when meetings aren't in session. Because we are proposing to take the building out that way and cover up what's currently the main entry of the building, We're proposing building a new customer service entry and kind of a new main entry to the building as part of this. So this is kind of essentially the public wing of the building. And so this has enough space for all of the customer service functions. We're adding in we're calling it a non-secure conference room, with the idea being that should you get an unruly customer or somebody who you want to have a little bit more private conversation with, then you can have at the front desk. You take them into that conference room without necessarily needing to take them all the way back into the secure part of the building. And a little bit of a kind of grand display lobby where you can put up historical maps, you can put up historical items to talk about the history of the utility, because you guys have over 100 years of history. You've got a lot of exciting things around the building that are pushed into back corridors, and let's get them up there where the public can see them, along with a couple of offices. And so when this is built in phase one, it would initially probably be functionally separate from the existing building. And while you did the remodel of this existing building, you'd put people in temporary stations in the large conference rooms, just long enough to remodel this building. Put some holes in between the two so that they can walk freely in between without going outside. And then you have a complete admin space is what we're talking about on the admin size. So we're basically talking about doubling the size of the admin building when we're all said and done. And we're talking about doubling the size of the warehouse when we're all said and done. And the maintenance building is probably 3 times as big as it is. Just again, it was so undersized.
What will happen with the old maintenance building?
The plan is to turn it into the meter shop, at least right now. Yes.
So I think, does that say riser, like the riser room?
Yes, that is this room right here.
Front end of the building.
Yeah, so that is this room right here that's off
So we're going out the parking lot.
Mhm.
Very nice.
Yeah. And then I think the next one is the maintenance building. Yeah. So we've got 4 maintenance bays, with the idea being that they're large enough you can bring the largest truck in, but on the smaller vehicle bays, you could potentially have some of your tools, with another bay set up for large storage, because we've got lots of from going around out there, lots of 15-20 foot long lengths of steel that need storage. Bringing the wood shop that facilities uses into this building so they can share power. They also use a lot of metal tools. So now you've got some economies with them sharing tools with the fleet maintenance staff. Lots of storage out there, and then a new wash bay that again actually accommodates the trucks, because the current one is too narrow to drive any of the existing vehicles through. So this one would have a new one that's sized to accommodate that.
And is this not just so I can't imagine that vehicles are going to keep getting larger, but maybe they are. That's what's been happening. So how oversized is this?
So we've got the maintenance bays themselves are
65 or 70 foot.
70 foot deep in here. And so,
Our longest truck right now is about 40.
right, so that gives you space to walk around it. Should they get deeper than that, you still got a fair amount of space to get deeper. Your width is limited by the highway lanes, so at least we've got some restrictions on width. We're also proposing this building be taller so that they can lift the vehicles up and get under them, because that's a problem in the existing facility as well, that it's just not tall enough.
This is a question for Chad. In light of your material problems and this lavender building up there, you thinking about going back to making wood staves and rolling pipe or something? Or? we have no wood,
wood, right?
We have no wood shop. I mean, tell me about this. Do you have a wood shop now?
Well, it's a facilities building or facility. That's where our facility staff is. And they're currently in the warehouse. It's a very small one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What's his planer and stuff? And
I don't think he has a planer. I think it's a table saw. And yeah, it's really small. But the idea was to move
right
facility staff out with them, because they do work together all the time. They share their tools. And it also freezes a spot up the warehouse for crews.
I think the next one is the all important number. Oh, renderings, yes. So the idea on these being that we kind of mimic the roof line of this existing building so that it doesn't, so they're still talking to each other, they still look like they're part of the same building, but we're modernizing a little bit, right? We're bringing in some more glass. We're using some brick or some colors to tie in, but again, bringing in some metal. So we're just, the idea being, we want to respect and tie back to the existing building, but kind of celebrate and make the new expansion modern. So Trina, there's another one if you go to the next one.
So is this room, this is maintaining everything single story?
Yes.
And will you tell us about the kind of thinking behind that?
Yeah, so particularly because we made the decision for cost purposes to maintain this building, there wasn't a lot of benefit to go to 2 stories with just a conference room and customer service addition, because both of those things kind of want to be first floor items, right? But there's also a certain amount of expense when you go up to 2 stories because you're buying an elevator, which is probably closer to $100,000 these days. You're taking up extra footprint because you've got stairs all of a sudden. So there's, on the one hand, there are efficiencies because you can have a smaller footprint and take up less space on your site, which if we had decided after our conversations that it made more sense to take this building down and put something in its place, 2 stories probably would have made more sense. But because we wanted to keep this one operational, both from a cost as well as it allows you guys to remain 100% functional while construction is going on, we kept everything single story.
Okay. Do you have a large kind of record storage needs, et cetera, here? And
We have a,
is it
can you go
digitized?
back a few times? That's, yes, if you go back a few slides, Trina, you can see that. But over time, we're digitizing, so we're having less need for that, but there is.
So you don't want to build for it, you just want to build the infrastructure that.
Yeah,
it-
see that where it says vault there? That's
Yeah.
the record storage there now.
Oh, I thought that was for cash.
Can we have that much cash?
It's a large vault, and I was like,
Wow.
Yeah.
What are you doing today?
That's
It's
great.
not, I mean, you do
Right.
have a large volume of cash through,
Right.
you know, it's not unreasonable to
sense.
think that.
We
there
don't want
would
to
be
say
a
how
vault.
much, but yes,
There's a whole story to talk about cash here. remember?
Yeah, we don't want to have that conversation here.
Okay.
And not.
But I mean, but to your question, yes, over time, that volume is shrinking. And so there will be some records that will always be kept hard copy because of BPA contracts and there's some certain things, but we do scan a lot of it.
But that vault should be, that 421 square feet should be sufficient for.
Yeah, it's actually partially empty now. Because we've been doing a lot of that work, scanning work.
Okay.
So then, if you, the all important, if you go one more, Trina, the budget.
Okay, buckle up.
Yeah, unfortunately, much like all the supplies, construction prices have increased dramatically in the last few years, which is part of why we've broken this out in 2 phases. So what you're seeing on this slide are just construction hard costs. So just the physical cost to build the building. It's not the design services. It's not your permit fees. It's just construction costs. So phase 1 with the 2 office expansions and the associated parking is in the $10 million range. Phase 2 with the maintenance building and the office remodel is also in the $12 million range. Phase 3 with the warehouse seismic upgrade and the warehouse expansion is in the $10 million range. And then that phase 4 phase, which was fairly minimal, the pole barn replacement and paving leftover site is about $4 million. And these are all in 2024 dollars because we've got a good handle on what that escalation looks like. We don't have a good handle, right, as you get further and further out. Although our cost estimator did make some guesses as to what those percentages might be. We are going to put together a full report that has some of our previous floor plan ideas that we came up with, that has the interviews we did with the crew, those kind of things in them, to present to you all at the end of the month, that kind of has all the information along with what we ended up with. But this is kind of the high level summary for today.
So, noting that it's 4 phases, can you give me a sense of what the time horizon is for that? How much time you would recommend? for
Yeah.
Each phase?
So phase 1 is going to take you guys between 2 and 3 years if you were to start today, between design and construction. Because we've taken you through, maybe we call it schematic design.
Yeah.
when you go through design. So we're in a fairly early phase of design. So there's still easily another 9 months before you have a construction ready set of drawings.
Yeah.
If you were to just go from today, and it could potentially be longer. And then construction on this, maybe you could do it in a year. With supply chain issues, we're starting to see construction times go out a little bit, because you can't get your switch gear for your building for 2 years, because you can't get some of these things. So I think phase 1 is probably a three-year process to complete phase 1.
Okay.
I think it's worth noting also, there's some complexity in phase 1 that's probably going to require some phasing in construction to get the different pieces built, because it really can't functionally happen all at once.
So I think from a gut instinct, you're probably looking like at 5 to 8 year increments with these items for each phase.
Okay.
So if phase 3 is the most critical for operating, to stay up and running regardless of the situation, is there a reason why it's pushed to phase 3 and not phase 1?
That one was because of the lack of space that everybody is experiencing now. There was concern that there was literally just not enough space to operate, and there wasn't the ability to repair the vehicles that we already have, that are already in operation. And so I think that's why the warehouse one got pushed further out. I mean, that said, these things are line items. They can kind of be moved around as we have those discussions and decide that maybe seismic upgrading is more important.
Because it seemed like it's not in a place where it needed to be done in a certain order. It's kind of.
It can be shifted around.
standalone. And I just feel like.
But I think that to your question, I think, yes, you could do the seismic upgrade in the building right then, just that piece. We already did an assessment, and the first assessment came back, the building was fairly good, because it's a metal building. We would have to do the second tier of the assessment and see if there's any, welded brackets with additional
What we're
structures.
seeing for pre-engineered metal buildings of a similar age, because we work with a structural engineer and do a lot of seismic upgrades for fire stations, who are also essential facilities. And the last few pre-engineered metal buildings we've worked with the structural engineer on, it has essentially been a complete rebuild of the exterior walls and the roof in order to bring it up to structure, because metal buildings are just built so close to the edge in order to get those costs down. That's why they're so cost effective, is they don't put anything extra in there, which is great. It's a great efficient method of construction. Unfortunately, it means in the 40 years since they've built, as seismic codes have changed, they don't have a lot of that extra.
But it would just seem to me that, I mean, it seems like I'm involved in a lot of conversations and hear a lot of conversations about preparing for, natural disasters.
Yes.
But it's always like way down the road that any actual work seems to actually be getting done, just lots of discussion about it. And I feel like if there's things that we know that could be avoided, critical infrastructure. That it seems like that would maybe want to be higher on the list, especially if we're talking about a 5 to 8 year plan.
Well, and 5 to 8 year per phase, and that's phase 3, so.
Yeah,
It's a long ways out.
Kathy makes an excellent point. That makes me nervous that if we're looking for critical services.
I mean, I don't know how much of what you're talking about, because you're talking, one of your comments is like, well, for working on things, maintenance, all of those kinds of things is really difficult right now. So I don't know if, I just feel like maybe the plan could be looked at like in a different, like differently as far as priorities are concerned. And it's maybe not money, or it's not just having, more space for office, because like we talked about, I mean, we know that everything runs better when everybody's here, but there is a possibility for remote work and various things. to
And
happen.
part of the reason we've split this into so many phases is so that you weren't spending all 35 million at once.
Right,
But
right.
I don't know what your budget is, but depending on how much you feel you can allocate at once, you can, maybe there's only 2.5 phases and we can combine more of these things into one, or
Maybe some of phase 3 goes to phase 2 and some of phase 2 goes, so
Mhm.
those things need to be, but I think we need to look at, what would it take to seismically upgrade the warehouse building?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
Thank you.
that's probably, so it's outside of the scope of this report, but I think that's the next step, is to have a structural engineer come back and do, they call it essentially a tier 2 assessment, where they come in and they do a little more investigative testing, where maybe they open up the walls and maybe they take some samples and things like that, and they go back and they do a bunch of math, which is not what they did in their original report. In their original report, they just kind of went, yeah, it looks about right. So they can give us a better idea of exactly what those improvements might be.
Yeah, thank you.
John, allocation of resources to pay for this. How do we do that?
So we put,
By the square inch?
no, we do it about a 60-40 split between water and electric. It's typically the way we allocate.
But in all fairness, it should be based on how much electrical impact we had on the building, how much water, right? And it follows 60-40 usually?
It's pretty close. We've done a couple, I think Mark has done a couple analysis. Sometimes it's 39%.
Yeah, it's based on our water, our meter installations, and we're virtually a 60-40 split. That's why we use that ratio.
John, you know your money's gone now, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Don't plan on anything for a while.
So looking at the map.
Yeah.
I'm wondering whether you're planning to have a way to get to the back area to the west. Would you just go through the fence and?
Go back to the map.
The overall map,
I think
Trina.
to answer your question is yes,
Yeah.
and it's not in here. We're actually doing something.
And you can see where you can go through the fence.
Right here. So you're talking about,
The
To the
area
wastewater
west
treatment.
that's behind the.
yeah, there's actually already, you're talking about the fence right here,
Yeah,
right in here.
no, I'm talking about
We're
the
down
fence on
here.
the side there.
Which one?
Just
This
by
one?
engineering space, it's just, would you just go out and around that?
You
way?
just go out around. We're actually looking at moving this fence line from this corner out like this, so we can actually drive around this.
Okay, right.
That's actually, we're looking at
What
that
about the
one.
other side? So you want to do the neutral.
This side up here,
Yeah,
we're actually looking at, we would drive down and out like this. So you just come in and drive out.
no, I mean, if you're in the back area there.
Back up here,
Yeah,
this is our pole, this is our training area for the crews, so they don't use that area.
okay.
We have poles and stuff set up out there for them to work.
So it would be,
Test.
okay.
Yeah,
And would you create some kind of through the gate access to the adjacent city property?
we have that now. It's actually, you can just kind of see it right here. This is it, right here. There's
Okay.
actually a gate a vehicle gate right there.
Okay, great.
And one of the things we definitely thought about when we were placing that maintenance building was you guys also own that piece of property directly to the north. So we didn't want to cut off access to that should you need to develop it in the future either. And so with the location of that building, that allows for, there's a clear drive aisle that would still allow access internally to the site if you expand out that direction. I mean, talking with the staff, they all really liked being together on a single site at this particular location. I want to stress that they all really liked working together and being in close proximity. And so I think that definitely influenced us as well. We were not going to look externally. We were going to keep looking here because it was really important to everybody we talked to that they felt like a unit, and they liked being near to each other, and they wanted to continue to be near to each other.
So you probably looked at our history, but the reason we have this building is because of that very fact. And that.
Who's that guy right there?
Young Ed Gormley. The reality was, we're gonna have a whole bunch of buildings and nobody knew who was on first. And the board was not happy long before me. And so,
Yeah.
You just got it.
I got to use a gold shovel.
Additional questions?
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, the very last page, and it got added at the last minute. We did a quick pass at kind of the soft costs associated with it. So, I apologize, it's a little, yeah, there we go. So things like furniture, design fees, so architect, structural, civil engineer, permit fees. If you all want to hire a project or construction manager, that's optional. I think we're seeing about 50-50 as to whether clients decide they want to hire somebody to help them manage the design and construction process. But we've got a number in there for you all, so you have just an idea as to what cost for that would be as well.
Wonderful, great.
And so I think, you're gonna have the report. We've actually, if you look at our budget, we've actually put dollars in for that first phase. And we'll go back and look at, I really like the idea of having the structural engineer come in and look at the warehouse before we decide the final phasing. To see if we need to, if there's something that can be done that's not, terribly expensive. Because we have put a new roof on that building in the last 5 years. So, yeah.
But you're gonna expand that building too?
Yes.
Eventually.
So I heard you, I think I heard you say that in the past you've had to redo the whole wall.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna replace that wall by expanding the building, that doesn't make sense, right?
But I mean, there may be some simple structural things to do to that, some additional ties or something that we could do fairly inexpensively. That would give us. That's what we'll have to look at that.
And John, I was glad to see that your office is in the new building with the substantial workers.
All right, well, thank you both very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, so we had some pizzas delivered, and I think they're gonna be cold pizzas soon, so I'd suggest we take a little break and grab some pizza.
Upgrade from this, Jody?
So why don't we take about 10 minutes and let everybody grab some pizza and feel free to bring it back in the meeting space.
There's
This is all gonna have electric